So I asked a question a little while ago and asked, what is a tutorial that you would like to see? And I had a very overwhelming response to the Monday sweater by Petite knit. So today I am going to start up with the Monday sweater. I do not have a filming setup currently in our house. We've just moved in. We're still waiting on our carpets to be replaced, and so I have no filming setup. So right now I am perched upon a box with my mat in front of a window. So I hope that you will be understanding with me as I do this from a slightly odd angle, and hopefully it'll still be fun. So for this project, I'm using this yarn that was gifted to me a while back by a good friend. It is Eddie Bauer Woolpaca, and it's 80% fine merino superwash and 20% alpaca. And it is a light weight, so a DK weight, and the color green olive. And I happen to have enough to be able to do this sweater. So if you have your pattern, I hope you've got it printed out for you and you're ready to go. If you're one of those that do not print out your pattern, that's absolutely fine. In this case, I'm not printing out my pattern either because my printer is still in a box somewhere and I haven't got a library card yet. So I'm going to be going slow, a little bit at a time, and hopefully we will enjoy this together just like our last ones. So the first part of the pattern calls for size 4 16-inch circular needles as we start our neck. So grab your size 4s and you're going to find the number that you need to cast on based on the size that you're knitting, and we're going to go ahead and cast those stitches on. All right, so now we have our stitches that we need on our needle. So let's just make sure that they are nice and even all the way around, so we're not twisting any of our stitches, because we are going to join this in the round. So make sure you have your stitch marker handy. I'm looking at this through a very odd angle, so I hope I'm doing this okay. I decided to use this really cute little stitch marker for fall. All right, so now with our working yarn over here on our right side, we are just going to be doing 1 by 1 rib for the first 9 rows. That is it. I do recommend that you have your handy dandy row counter with you, because after we finish those rows of 1 by 1 rib, we have another little ribbed pattern to go just for a few rows, and then we go back to 1 by 1 rib. So in order to keep track of what we're doing, having this little row counter is very, very helpful. I'm sorry I'm knitting so wonky. I am looking over. I'm looking over my camera as I'm doing this. So I'm sure as the days progress, I will figure out a better camera situation. I'm sure it will. I might even call in my daughters to help me figure it out. Until I can get, well, and until we get our new carpet, and until I can get my desk placed where it needs to be with my overhead filming arm and all that good stuff. So I'm sure they'd be happy to help me out. But for right now, I really wanted to get started doing this, so this is what we have. I really like this yarn so far. It's very soft. I've never worn a wool alpaca blend before. I've knit with alpaca, and alpaca does have a tendency, to make my nose itchy. But we'll see how this one goes. I may end up being relegated to having to wear a mask, but they never seem to bother me when I'm wearing them. So that's the good part. So we're knitting the neckline in these small size 4s. And then when we get to the body, we move to our size 6s. And I don't know about you, but did you do a swatch? I didn't. So I feel like it's part of the surprise, right? Yeah. It's like knowing there's a surprise in the cereal box waiting for you once you finish the box of cereal. And you know it's going to be a cool little ring, right? You don't know if it's going to fit you, but that's part of the surprise. That's part of the surprise. All right, so we're just going to keep going around, knit 1, purl 1, rib for 9 rows, and I will see you back here when it's time for us to do our 10th row. All right, we're now on row 10, where we're going to knit 1, pull the yarn in front, slip 1, pull the yarn back. Knit 1, yarn in front, slip 1, pull back. And we're going to keep doing this all the way around for row 10, making these slip stitches. And I'm sorry if I'm moving kind of funny. I am knitting through my camera. That is the only way I can set up right now. Is I made a different little tripod little thing, and unfortunately I have to do it this way. So you are very close to me. Very close to my stitches and my unkempt manicure. So knit 1, pull the yarn forward, slip that purl stitch, pull the yarn back. And we do that all around row 10. All right, so now we're done with row 10. And I don't know why that says 11. It should say 10. I probably messed that up. Now row 11, we're gonna do the opposite. So we're gonna slip 1 purlwise with the yarn in back, and then purl 1. So we're gonna slip 1 purlwise with the yarn in back, then we're gonna bring forward to purl like usual. Purl with the yarn in back, bring forward to purl as usual. So that first one, we're keeping our yarn in the back, and we're gonna slip like we're gonna purl. Well, now we're bringing our yarn forward, and we're purling just like usual. So we're doing the opposite of what we were just doing. My hands are so chilly this morning. It's one of the lovely things about having moved up here further north is that it really feels like fall here. I wake up and my hands are chilly and I have to go put on my cardigan. Yeah, it feels really good. In Georgia, where we were, it's still pretty hot there. Slip with the yarn in back as if to purl. Purl that next stitch. Slip with the yarn in back as if to purl. Purl that next stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and continue this all the way around, and then I will see you again on row 12. All right, so we finished row 11, and now for rows 12 through 19, we're simply going back to the knit 1, purl 1 rib. So knit 1, purl 1. Sorry, like I said, I'm doing this through my camera, so it's a little difficult. And very close up. So we're just doing knit 1, purl 1 rib for rows 12 through 19. And when we get to row 20, that's when we're going to stitch our neckline together, and then we'll move on from there. So I'm going to keep going rows 12 through 19, and I will see you back here, hopefully with a better camera angle. I'll see you back here when we get to row 20. So in order to get that seamed, stitched around neckband, we have to stitch our neckband, our back of our neckband, and we have to knit it into the front of the neckband. And we don't want it to be twisted or anything like that, so we have to be very careful about where we pick up the stitches. So here's what I want you to do. So we have our knit stitches and our purl stitches. So when you're looking in the back and you're going to pick up a stitch, we're only picking up every other stitch. So look for the row that has the knit stitches, and then we're going to pick up the bottom part of that stitch, just like this, and give it a little bit of a shake so that you can stretch it out a bit. And then you're going to put that on your left hand needle, and then we're going to knit these 2 stitches together and then purl the next stitch. And that gives us a nice clean pickup look. So let's do that again. You're going to come behind and we're skipping a stitch. We're looking for a little loop here at the bottom of the knit stitch that we can grab. So we're just going to grab that. So we're not messing with the bottom loop of any of the purl stitches, just the knit stitches. So we're going to grab that loop, put it onto our needle, then we're going to knit those 2 stitches together and immediately purl the next stitch. And we're doing this all the way around. And it turns into a very nice, very straight
collar. So again, let's look at what we've got going on back here. We're going to avoid the purl line, and we're looking right here on the knit stitch line, and we're going to grab this bump right there. We're going to grab that loop right there at the very bottom, put that on the left hand needle, and then we're going to knit those 2 stitches together and purl the next stitch. So let's do this one more time. So look into the back here, and we're going to ignore the row of purls, and we're going to come over here to the row of knits, and you see that bump right there, and we're going to grab that bump, and we're going to put it on our left hand needle, and then we're going to knit those 2 stitches together, making sure you get all of the yarn onto that needle. Knit those 2 stitches together, and then purl the next stitch. And we're going to keep doing that all the way around. And it's going to give you this really nice, clean line of picked up stitches. And so this is going to be the underside of your collar, and this will be the outside, and the outside looks nice and clean and straight. And then as we're knitting, as we continue knitting the rest of the top, this nice clean collar is going to be at the very bottom, and so we're going to be progressing like that. And so it's going to be really nice and fun to see the progress coming out of this beautiful folded rib collar. But there you go. That is our next step, and I will meet you back here again when I've done with my collar and you've done with yours, and then we can continue on to the next step.
Thank you. So if you've already created your collar here, it looks amazing. Well done to you. We did it. It is so pretty. So now you've already probably, if you've been following the pattern, you've done your 1 round of knitting. And now it is time for us to switch to our size 6 circulars and to put on our stitch markers for our raglan sleeve stitches.
All right, so here we are. We've got our folded hem collar done, and we've got our stitch markers on for our raglan stitches. And so to do that, you just follow in the pattern, and it will tell you how many stitches that you need to have in between your raglan stitch markers for your size. So I'm starting at the very beginning here. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making short rows to add shape to the back of this neck so that the neck sits higher in the back than it does in the front. And so by doing that, to do that, we're going to be doing partial rows. We'll do a partial row one way, come back and do a partial row over the beginning of the round marker, do a partial row this way, and then we'll come back and do a partial row this way. And we're going to continuously do these partial rows, getting a little bit further and further with every time, as we're going to be increasing the length of the fabric in this area. So we're going to be using make one lefts, make one rights, and we're also going to be using make one lefts and make one rights purlwise. And we're doing all of these short rows at the same time that we're adding in our raglan stitches. So I have everything written out for me right here, just because I find it easier for myself if I can look at the pattern and write it out myself. And so we're going to go over this together. So I hope you are ready. I know I'm ready. And I already had to, actually, I had gotten pretty far. And then I had to unravel because one of my cats, Ghibli, who I will show a picture of the culprit. He got a hold of my work here. So I've just finished putting it back on the needles and we're just starting over again. All right, so now we're going to start working our raglan increases and the short rows. So we have 8 rows that we're going to be knitting. And then after we finish those 8 rows, then we're going to repeat the last 2 rows 2 to 3 times. So here we go. We're going to knit to the marker. So here's our beginning of round marker, and we're going to knit to our first marker. Someone in a previous video mentioned that I have really tight knitting tension, that it's almost painful to watch. Ouch. I didn't think my tension was that tight, but I do prefer a tighter stitch, but I will make an effort to be a little bit looser. How about that? So for a make one right, if this is your first time doing this, oh no, leftover from Ghibli. Okay. If this is your first time doing a make one right, so we're gonna lift this bar. So here's our stitch here. Let me fix it. Sorry, he really messed up my yarn. Knit that stitch before you get to the stitch marker. And now we're gonna make a stitch and we're gonna find the bar. This right here, right back here, this is the bar we're looking for. So we're going to lift that bar from under the back. Not this. This right here is just an elongated stitch because I've already put these back on the needles before. But let's lift up, let's use our needle to kind of lift up this back bar here so you can see it better. If I can get it. My goodness. Okay, so here we go. So this is this back bar. So we're going to lift up this bar from under and to the back. So we've put it on our needle, our left-hand needle, and we've swooped under and from the back. And so now here we have the tighter leg of the loop on the front and the looser leg of the loop on the back. And so now we're going to knit into the front of that stitch, which is going to give us a right leaning increase. Now these stitches for me here are loose because, as you can see, I have cat damage. So I will fix those stitches later on while I'll fix those stitches later on. And then we're going to knit 3 raglan stitches. And now we're going to do our make one left. And the make one left is we're going to lift the bar from under the front. So we're going under the bar through the front of that bar, and we're going to knit into the back of that stitch. And now that is a make one left. So we've knit our make one left, and now we're going to knit to 4 stitches before the next marker. So we're just going to keep knitting until we get to 4 stitches before the next marker. And we're going to do our first short row. 1, 2, 3, 4, one more. Okay, so to do a short row, you finish knitting where it tells you to stop, and then we're going to turn our work. So now we're going to take this stitch with your working yarn on it, and we're going to move it to the right hand needle. And it creates a little gap there, but that's okay. We'll pick those up when we knit over it. But now we're going to turn this stitch into 2 stitches by taking that working yarn and pulling it back and over. So pulling it back and over. So here is what it looked like before. And now we're pulling it back and turning that into 2 stitches. And we're going to bring that yarn back around because we're purling. So now we're on row 2. We're going to purl all the way back to the beginning of the row marker. It doesn't say to do anything else when we get to these make one lefts and make one rights that we just did. We're just knitting, or we're just purling over them. So we're going to hold that stitch kind of steady as we do these next couple of stitches. And we are simply going to purl back to the beginning of the row marker. He's even wearing his Hufflepuff tie today, and he was bad. 10 points from Hufflepuff Ghibli. Yeah, I'm gonna have to, and I don't know if you can hear him now, but that's him yowling because I've shut my door and I have not let him in, so he can cause more havoc. So we're just purling back to the beginning of the round marker. There we go. And now it says to purl to the next marker, and then we're going to make one right, purl 3, and make one left. So we're going to purl to these next sets of markers, and we're going to make one right and make one left purlwise. Oh my goodness gracious. Actually, I don't know whether that's Ghibli or Ponyo. They both see. Let me go check on them. Okay, so we are continuing to purl to these stitch markers. We're still on row 2, so we purled to the beginning of the row marker, and then we are purling to the stitch markers. And now we're going to do a make one right purlwise. So from the back, here's our bar that we're looking for, the back and under. We'll only get the one bar, and then we're just going to purl right into that front stitch. Then we purl the raglan stitches. Then now we're going to purl one left, so under from the front, and then we're going to come behind and purl into that stitch. Okay, and now it says to purl to 4 stitches before the marker and then turn. So let's go 4 stitches before the marker. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to turn. Okay, so I'm going to cross off row number 2. Row number 3. Now since we've just turned, what we're going to do now is we have to make our German short row. So let's bring our yarn to the front, and we're going to move that stitch over here to the right. And now we're going to turn this into a double stitch. Let me see if I can show you properly. So we moved the yarn over to the front, and now we are pulling it over. Can you see the spot between there? Pulling it over the spot really tightly. We're going to hold that with our finger, and we're turning that into a double stitch. And now we're going to knit back to the beginning of the round marker. So I will see you when I get back to the beginning of the round marker. All right, I'm here back to my squirrel, and now we're going to knit to these markers right here and do a make one right and make one left. So we're going back and forth a little bit further around the color every time. Now for a make one right, we're going to come lift the bar from under the back and knit into the front. Knit those 3 raglan stitches. And for the make one left, okay, and so for our make one left, we're going to lift the bar from under to the front, and then we're just going to knit into the back of that loop. There we go. And now we're going to knit to 2 stitches before this marker and then turn. See how we're getting a little further and further away from the beginning of the round marker every time. This was our previous double stitch, and we knit that like it's 1 stitch. And now we knit to 2 stitches before the marker. And now we're going to turn. So I'm going to cross off row 3, and now I'm going to turn. So now we're on row 4. So we're going to pull our stitch over here to our right hand needle, take our working yarn and pull it back all the way around back to the front to make that double stitch. And now we're going to purl back to the beginning of the round marker. We're not going to do any increases on any of this side of the stitches. We're only purling back to the beginning of the round marker. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will see you back at the squirrel. Okay, so we're meeting back at the squirrel, and now we're going to purl to the next marker. And then we're going to do a purl 1 left and purl 1 right. Well, purl 1 right, purl 1 left. Okay, so to purl one right, we're going to come from back and under, so find that bar, back and under, and just purl right into the front of it. Purl those 3 raglan stitches. And now to purl one left, we're going to purl from under the front, and we're going to purl just like this. I'm going to come back here, grab that twisted stitch there. Maybe I am a really tight knitter, because sometimes these are a little bit hard for me to get. Okay, hold on. Okay. Maybe I do need to loosen up on my knitting. And so now we're going to purl to 2 stitches before the marker and turn. Which means that we are going to come upon a previous wrap and turn here, or a previous German short row. So here you can see the difference in the stitch, the double stitch. This was a previous German short row, and we just purl it like it's 1 stitch. And we purl to 2 stitches before the marker. And now we turn. So I'm going to go ahead and cross off row 4. And now I'm going to turn or pull my stitch over here to the front. Actually, no. Pull your yarn in front first. Then pull your stitch over. And then take your yarn and pull it back over so you're making that double stitch. I hope you can see. And then just hold on to it real tight as you're doing this. So now we're going to knit back to the beginning of the round marker. So I will do that, and I will see you back at the squirrel. Okay, so now we're going to knit to the next marker, make 1 left. I always say make 1 left first, but it's always a make 1 right first and then a make 1 left. And see, I'm trying not to knit too tight. Like, I don't even tension the yarn. I just hold my yarn up against the work and lift my finger up. That's all. How does one even practice loosening their tension? I don't know. I feel like tension is very personal. Okay, for make 1 right, we're going to lift this bar from under the back and knit into the front of it. Knit our 3 raglan stitches. And for the knit 1 left, we're going to lift the bar from under the front like that and knit into the back of it. And then it says we are to knit to the next one and do the same thing. We are making progress. We're going to come upon a wrap and turn or German short row, whichever you want to call it, that we have already done. So you'll get to see what that looks like again. So right here, you can see how different that stitch is, but we just knit it like it's 1 stitch. And then we knit to the marker, make 1 right, lift the bar from under the back, knit into the front of it, knit those 3 raglans, make 1 left, and we lift the bar from under the front and knit into the back of it. There we go. And now it says to knit 2 and then turn. My stitch there was not right, so I'm going to knit 2 and then turn. Cross off row 5. So we're on a wrong side row now, or row 6. Let me just get out some more yarn here. Okay, so we're gonna do our turn here. We got our yarn in the front, and we're gonna transfer that stitch to the right hand needle, then pull it up and over to make that double stitch right there. And then pull it back around because we're purling. So we're gonna purl all the way back to the squirrel stitch marker. So I'll do that, you purl back too, and I will see you at the squirrel. Okay, we're back, and we are going to purl all the way across, and when we get to these, both of these stitch markers, we're going to be doing the purl 1 rights and purl 1 lefts. So we're hitting up both sections of the raglan this time. Can you see how the back is taking shape, whereas the front is staying small? It's exactly how you want it to look. We're just increasing the shape a little by little, so that way when you go to put it on, it's not a boat neck, and you can easily see which is the front and which is the back. And it just sits nicer on your shoulders that way. Okay, now we're going to do a purl 1 right and a purl 1 left. So for a purl 1 right, we're going to come from back under and grab that bar and purl into the front. Those 3 raglan stitches. And for our purl 1 left, we put under from the front back, and we purl into that stitch. Okay, and now we're going to continue going to the next stitch markers. I hope you're enjoying this so far, and I really hope that the beginning, when I was doing all this on a box, I hope it didn't turn you off. It turned me off. I thought, no one is going to want to watch this. This is horrible. So here we're coming to a previous German short row, and we're just going to purl it like it's 1 stitch. Okay, and we're going to purl all the way up and do purl 1 right. What is this squishy? Can I just pull this? Yeah. Okay, cool. So purl 1 right from back under. Grab that bar, just the bar. And then purl into the front of it. And purl those 3 raglan stitches. And then purl 1 left. So find the bar from the front, under,
and purl into the back of that stitch. Okay, and then now it says to purl 2 and then turn. So purl 2, and I'm going to cross off row 6, and then we turn. So let's bring our yarn to the front. Can you see how it's small here, then here, and it just gets wider and wider this way. That's what you want it to look like. So here we are on row 7. We're going to just move this stitch over and then use our working yarn to pull tight all the way over. So it looks like 2 stitches right there. And keep that pulled down nice and tight. See those 2 stitches? And now we're going to knit to the beginning of the round marker, which is my lovely little squirrel. And I will see you again when I get there. All right, so we're back to the squirrel. Now we're going to knit to the marker, knit one, make one right and left again. And like I said, this is row 7. I hear one of my cats at the door. They're Velcro kitties. Okay, make one right. We're going to lift the bar from under the back and knit into the front of it. Knit our 3 raglan stitches. And make one left. Lift the bar from under the front, knit into the back of that stitch. And we're going to continue knitting, and we are going to do the same at this marker as well. Okay, make one right, lift the bar from under the back, knit into the front of it, raglan stitches, and for the left, into the bar from the back, knit into the back of that stitch. And now it says to knit to 2 stitches after the last turn. That was my turn. This stitch right here is just a wonky one. I don't know if you can tell where some of the alpaca just kind of furs up, and yes, but that is my last wrap turn. So I knit to 2 stitches after that turn. So it was that one, and now I'm going to knit 2 more stitches. And now I'm going to cross off row 7, and we're going to turn. Now we're on row 8. So I'm going to pull that stitch over here, take our working yarn and pull it all the way back so we can see that double stitch
and then pull it in front again. And now we're going to purl back to our squirrel, and I'll see you when we get there. Okay, so I came back to the squirrel, and now we're going to coming up to our stitch markers here. We're going to be doing our purl one right and purl one left on both stitch marker sections. So purl one from the back, this is our bar, from the back under, and then just purl right into that. Then we do our 3 beautiful raglan stitches, and then purl one left, grabbing the bar, and this is the one where you have to kind of get in there, finagle and get in there. And there we are. Now we're going to purl till we get to this section too, and do the exact same thing. So I'll see you when we get there again. Okay, so we're going to purl one right, so under from the back, purl into that loop, purl those 3 raglan stitches, then we purl the other way, and we come and we loosen up that stitch so we can get underneath it very carefully. There we go. Okay. Whoops. There we go. And now we purl to 2 stitches after the last turn. So this was our last turn right here. And we're just going to knit it as 1 stitch, or purl it as 1 stitch. And now we're going to purl 2 more. Okay. And I'm going to cross off row 8. Now we're going to turn. Now in your pattern, it's going to tell you to continue to do row 7 and row 8 3 more times. What I'm going to tell you to do is, before you do that, count all of your stitches. Count all of your stitches. See how many stitches you have in each of the sections. See how that is, and compare it to the number of the stitches that the pattern gives to you where it says that you'll be done with the neckline at this point. And then go from there. So I'm going to continue doing row 7 and row 8 3 more times, like the pattern says. And I will see you back here when I'm done, and when I've counted all of my stitches and made sure that I have the right amount of stitches. So when we finished row 8, it tells us after the purl to 2 stitches after the last turn, and then to turn. So we're going to turn our work around, bring our yarn to the front, slip that stitch over, and then we are going to pull that stitch really, really tight over so it looks like 2 stitches here. Okay, and now is the time where we continue doing row 7 again, and then row 8 again, and then row 7 again and 8, and then 7 and 8, just as the pattern says. So I'm just going to erase these little marks that I made, because otherwise I'll get confused. And as I complete row 7 and 8, I'll just notch them off. right there. So now that I've got my German short row turn right here, I'm going to go back to row 7, which is knit to the beginning of the round marker. I'm going to do everything for row 7, everything from row 8, and I'm going to do it 3 times. And when we are all done with that, we should have the proper stitch counts in between each stitch marker that our pattern will give us. So fingers crossed. Let's hope we made it. Okay, I will see you then. So if you've made it this far, then you have completed all of your rounds, all the 3 times you had to do round 7 and 8. So here we are at the end of round 8 for our last time. Now we still have to do that last turn. So bring it around, bring your yarn in front, pull that stitch over, and give one really good pull to turn that stitch into 2 stitches. And now the directions say to knit to the beginning of the round marker and your neckline is complete. So that's what we will do. We don't do any more increases, nothing like that, and we are doing no more purling. We are knitting to the beginning of the round marker, and that means that our neckline is complete. Now we leave our stitch markers on here for our raglan stitches because we're not done yet. We still have the body and the shoulders and the sleeves and all that good stuff to go. So we still need our raglan stitch markers. So if you did a good job, then you have all of the amount of stitches on your needle that you needed. Or if I did a good job helping you, and I did a good job because I had all the right amount of stitches. So yay me. So what I suggest is when you get to the beginning of the round marker, that's when we're going to start, and we're going to put our work on a larger needle. I got a size 24 there. And so I'm just going to keep going to the beginning of the round. And you know what, we'll just do this together. So how are you doing? How did this happen for you? Like, was it really frustrating? If I did not do a good enough job explaining and taking the time with all of this, please do not hesitate to let me know. I welcome any kind of feedback that can let me know how to do these things better in the future. Now, I've already been told a few times that I talk too much and my videos are too long. Honestly, guys, that's just me, and I feel like my videos are long because I do the work right there with you and kind of like hand holding, but that's because that's the kind of knitting help that I need. And so I figure if I need it, then other people must need it too. So I don't think you will ever watch a tutorial of mine that is like for a garment that's going to be very short. So we've made it to our beginning of the round marker, back to our adorable little squirrel here. And we are going to continue in the round on these larger circular needles, working raglan stitches on every other row. So round 1, this is our first row. We have round 1 and round 2. So we're for the next foreseeable future, until we get to we're going to be working these rows 25 times. Round 1, round 2, 25 times. So we are going to be using these 24-inch needles and eventually changing to 32-inch. But now is where we start our regular, why can't I word? Our regular raglan increases. And no more purling. So now is going to be the point where our sleeve stitches are going to start growing. And across our back and across our chest is going to start growing. Let me pull this up so it doesn't fall off. Actually, just do that. I still haven't unpacked or found all of my things in all of my boxes. So this right here is the only needle tip stopper that I can find at the moment. I don't know where the rest got to. They're in a box. I know that much. So here we are getting to our first raglan increase. And we dip under and knit that stitch. Our 3 raglans. Doesn't that increase and decreases? Don't those look so nice? Or those increases? That raglan looks so nice. And then under from the back, and we just knit into the back. I do have a problem with my stitches being too tight. Okay, Claire, there we go. So this is our new row 1. I would suggest getting out your handy dandy row counter because we're going to be completing a raglan row and then a knit row. We're going to be doing those 2 rows 25 times, or however many times it says for your size on the pattern. It'll give you the number of times that you need to complete them for your size and the amount of stitches that you're going to need and how the stitches are to be spaced out on your needle as well. So if you don't have a stitch counter or you'd rather not use one, you can simply just write it down. Row 1, row 2, row 1, row 2, just like that. And I've misplaced my stitch counter too. So that may be what I'm doing. So we're coming across to the front here, and that means that we're going to run across some of our last German short row stitches. And like right there, as you can see. And as we do that, we simply knit them like they're 1 stitch. They do not even matter anymore. You do not have to worry about those stitches anymore. We are done, son. So I just wanted to give a little shout out here. A good friend of mine actually sent me this yarn for the purpose of using in a tutorial, and it's the same brand of yarn that I used when I did the tutorial for the lacy loop tee, but this is the merino alpaca blend. But I was hoarding this yarn because it actually matches one of my very favorite colors of fountain pen ink, which is Pilot Iroshizuku Chiku Rin. And if I think about it, I'll flash up a picture of an ink swatch so you can see. But I just know, see here, we're coming to another double stitch. And you can tell it's the double stitch because of back here. I almost knit
that first stitch, that first part of it, almost knit it like regular, but you can tell if you look back here that it's a double stitch. So knit that like one. But it is one of my very favorite colors of ink. And I thought, wouldn't it be so cool to merge my two hobbies and make sweaters for myself in my favorite colors of ink? Like to spend the time to track down yarn in as close to matching of those colors as I possibly can. And I did not have to track this down. My friend sent this to me, and I'm so grateful for it. She has sent me a lot of yarn to do tutorials with, and I'm so grateful for all of it. But I was so excited to start this project because I just knew that this is going to be one of my very favorite sweaters of all time because of this color. And the alpaca doesn't seem to be irritating my nose, which is really nice. I can definitely see the alpaca, you know, in the halo of the alpaca. And it's in the air, but it doesn't seem to be bothering my nose very much, which is really nice. The next sweater I'm going to do a tutorial with, or whatever my next tutorial sweater is, it is going to be with yarn the color of Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki, which is a beautiful, brilliant blue. And I'm not really a blue person, but this blue ink, oh my goodness. I'm almost done with my bottle, and I'm already having like little heart palpitations. Even though it's a standard Pilot Iroshizuku ink, they will never not have Konpeki. But I just love it so much. I almost always have it inked up. And in my pens and with my inks, I have certain pens that go with certain inks. And that's just because that's just how I like to do it. And so this pen, Konpeki, is always inked up in my Kaweco Student in vintage blue. Perfect combination. And my Chikurin ink is the pen it belongs to is my Jinhao 10 in spring green. It's in a medium nib. It's just perfection. I love them. Absolutely love it. But here we are back at the beginning. We have done our round of our first Raglan increases. Put that off to the side. And this would be where my little squirrel would go. But this is how we're looking so far. So you can see that this is the back. This is going to be the area across the back. And this is the front of the neck. So now we just continue working on Raglan increases and then knit rows. And we're just going to keep going until we get to our stitch count. So that was one Raglan increase row with you. And now our next row, row 2, is just a knit row. So I'm going to knit it with you, but I'm going to speed me up. So if you saw before on the previous row where I did the Raglan increases, they were just all the knitted Raglan increases. So no purling, no weird twisting of twisties, nothing like that.
So we did our increases, and now we're doing a row of knitting. So we're just going to be increasing the size of our back and our front and our sleeves, and eventually we'll get to the point where we split for sleeves and we work on the body and all that good stuff, and we will get to all of that together. So I will check in with you from time to time while I'm working on my own raglan increases and knit rows here. But the next time I see you, we should be ready to start the next section of the pattern. So the next time I see you, we should be done working the raglan rows that are the shoulder shaping. And for my size, I'll have done both of these rows. Hold on, I need to make a mark because I just did row 1. These are the number of stitches that I'll have in between my stitch markers. So write that down or circle it on your pattern too, okay? It's good. We don't want to go past or not quite get there, because that would look very wonky. But I'm just going to go ahead and knit, and you just go ahead and knit, and you do your every other raglan increase row, and I'm going to do my every other raglan increase row, and we'll see each other when I pop back in a few times just to check in. Okay? Good morning. I just wanted to see how everyone was doing. I am on row 36. I'll be doing 50 rows. So that is one row of increases where we increase at our raglan stitches, and then one row of knitting. And I apologize for the brown on my fingers. It is fountain pen ink. I had a ink explosion just a few moments ago. But I've been knitting on this quite often, and it's coming along really nicely. And it's just such nice, just mindless knitting because I don't have to think about it. It's very easy to see as I'm going along and I come to the raglan sleeves. It's very easy to tell if I'm on a knit row or if I'm on a increase row. So I've been able to take this out places with me and knit while I'm out, and I'm enjoying that. After the last few tutorials where I had to really think about some things and maybe for portions of the project, they weren't always so portable. It's really nice to be able to pop my project into a bag and just take it with me. So right now I'm on row 36, and all of my even rows are just knitting rows. And I don't know if you can tell, but right here is a stitch that's a little bit close to the stitch in the middle. And that means that that was a previous newly made stitch. So I just knit that stitch. And it's the same for here. It's a little bit close to that stitch, so I know that I just knit that stitch. So I'm just going all around, taking my time because I'm enjoying this. One thing I love about petite knit patterns is that some of them are very intricate. You know, you have the Ingrid and the Storm, and there's also the men's sweaters and the sweaters that have the zippers. And so there's a lot of intricate work in petite knit patterns. But there's also a lot of just beautiful, slow, gentle, sweet, just plain knitting. And I think that's what attracts a lot of people to petite knit, is that you can choose your own adventure. Do you remember those choose your own adventure books from back when we were kids? So just by choosing a pattern, you can choose your own adventure. And so I'm really enjoying this pattern, and I'm liking the way it's turning out. I should probably go ahead and put on 40-inch cords now, but I think I'm gonna wait, because as soon as I put my sleeve stitches on hold, I think that's gonna free up a lot of space, and I'll be happier that I stayed at 32-inch cords. And oh, by the way, I'm at my desk. I don't know if you can tell, but yay! So you can see here, so this right here is a sleeve. So you can see the Raglan stitches going all the way down here. And after a certain amount more rows, then we will take these sleeve stitches off and we'll keep them on barber cord or something like that. And then we'll just continue working on the body. And what I plan to do is, once we get the sleeves off and we're working on the body, I plan to work on the body for a little while, but then I'm going to go back and I believe I'm going to knit the sleeves up first, because I have a problem with my sleeves. I always tend to knit my sleeves too short. I really like a good bracelet length sleeve, but like these. This is a perfect sleeve length for me, but it took me reworking the sleeve twice to get to this length, because I just kept wanting to knit it too short. I think just because I wanted to be done with the sleeves. But this time I'm not going to do that. I'm going to follow the instructions that it tells me to knit to, and I'm not going to deviate just by thinking, oh well, I have short arms, I don't need them to be that long. I'm going to say, no, Claire, knit them to the appointed number, because darn it, if you're going to do this, do it right. That's what I'm going to say to myself. Well, I just wanted to check in with you, see how you're doing. We're almost there to the point where we're going to split for sleeves. And I hope you are enjoying this. I hesitate to say mindless knit, because it's not mindless. You still have to think about what row you're on, if you're on a knit row or if you're on an increase row. And when you get to those increases, you have to think about where to insert your needle so that you're making the proper increase. So it's not completely mindless. I feel like this is more of meditative. This is a meditative knit. And I am enjoying it very, very much, especially after having done the lacy loop tee. Yeah, I am really enjoying this, and I am loving this color so much. I was actually just journaling this morning, and I pulled out my Spring Green Gen How 10 that has my ink that this color is Chiku Ren in it, and it was just really lovely to journal in and to know that pretty soon I'm gonna have an entire sweater that is the same color. That is really, really exciting to me. And one of these days when I can get outside, when the sun is over just the right way, I'm going to show you a swatch of the color up next to my project here so you can see how similar they look. They are just so beautiful. And I am so grateful to my friend who sent me this yarn. And I'm grateful that I held on to it, because for a little while, you know how sometimes you get yarn and it's so pretty and you think of a million different projects that you can do with that yarn. And sometimes a project just screams out and it says, "Do me, do me." And then you just use the yarn and then the yarn's all used up. But for this yarn, I knew that I had to wait for the perfect project. And then I had a whole bunch of requests. And I mean a whole bunch of requests to do the Monday sweater. And I knew that this was the perfect yarn for a Monday sweater. And I'm very excited for it. And I think that now I enjoy petite knit patterns. And I think that eventually I would like to do the terrazzo sweater with that big, huge neckline. You tell me what you think. I think eventually I'd like to do that too. And find a yarn quite similar to the yarn she has, but maybe something with yellow in it. I think that would be a lot of fun. Well, I just wanted to check in and talk with you for a few minutes while we're working on our beautiful sweater. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're having fun. And I hope that it is portable enough to where you can take this project out with you. Go sit in everybody always talks about go sitting in a cafe or something. We have a couple of cafes here, but I've not sat at any of them and knit here yet. So maybe, just maybe, I will grab one of my daughters. We have a cafe here called Caribou Coffee. Maybe we'll go sit at Caribou Coffee and knit today. I don't know. But you take your knitting somewhere today. Go sit down and knit in public and work on your Monday sweater. And just enjoy the day. And I will see you again to check in when we're closer to the time when it's going to be ready for slitting for sleeves. So I will see you then.
Good morning. I am coming to you this morning from my very barren, brand new room. Got a couple of empty bookcases behind me, and it's just literally boxes. It's just boxes. So I've been doing this whole vlog tutorial just sort of on top of boxes and then on top of a TV serving tray, and then I finally got my desk set up, and so I have been doing no unpacking, no organizing, I have literally been doing this tutorial. So today we are at the point where our beautiful raglan is ready to split for sleeves. So that's about what it's looking like right now. And you can't really see. I haven't tried this on because if you know me, I never try anything on until it's all done. It's all a surprise. This is my very first time knitting a small, so I'm excited about that. I wanted to come in here really quickly and say, make sure you're counting your stitches, because I sat down here at my desk this morning and I was ready to go ahead and start filming the dividing for the sleeves, and I did a secondary count of all my stitches, and I realized that I had written down the division of the sleeve count for the wrong size. So I had knit to the extra small size and not the small size. So I had to stay here for another 2 hours and knit while watching podcasts to get to the size that I need to be at for splitting for the sleeves. So I just wanted to put in that reminder there. Make sure you count your stitches as you're going, okay? Don't leave it until the very end. But here I am, here we are, right there where your beginning of round, end of round marker is. And we are going to go ahead and set up, and then we are going to put our sleeve stitches on. I've got some barber cord here, and we're going to do that together. And then we are going to start our work on the body. So I hope you are ready to work with me. All right, here we go, friends. The first thing we're going to do is you're going to remove your beginning or end of the round marker. And now, depending on what size you're knitting, depending on your size, now we're going to knit to our, we're going to knit and we're going to start dividing for our stitches, or for our sleeve stitches. So we're going to knit. For me, I'm knitting 50 stitches across, so I'm not going to be, I've already counted, but now I'm just knitting all the way across to the raglan. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm using a different mic. So I feel like we're coming up on a milestone here. Dividing for the sleeves, I feel like, is always a great milestone in a sweater. It's like you're making progress, you're getting there. Dividing for the sleeves means that you can try it on. So it's becoming its full potential. Not there yet, but it's becoming. So I hope you're enjoying the tutorial so far. I hope you're knitting right along with me. I don't really know if I would call these tutorials so much, as they're just kind of like knit with me's, because I don't know, maybe they are tutorials, but I just kind of like having someone to knit these things with. And I figure maybe you like that too. It makes it fun to know that I'm not the only one out there knitting this right now, and that maybe someone is waiting for my video, or waking up in the morning after getting to a certain point in the video and in their own garment. They're waking up and they're getting ready to check in with me and start a new side. So we're going to remove these stitch markers, knit these 3 raglan stitches, and now we're going to put 74 for my size. We're going to put 74 stitches on hold. So I'm going to put this barber cord on this needle, and I'm going to put a needle stopper here But I'm going to push that barber cord on really well, and I'm going to pull it all the way around here for 74 stitches. And for me, I know that 74 stitches stops when I get to the 3 raglan stitches. Okay. Right, so we've got these stitches. Ooh, I almost pulled that too much. Got these stitches on barber cord now. And I'm just going to kind of put them out and then tie a loose knot in the barber cord. Okay, and then I'm going to remove the stitch markers here. It says I'm going to cast on. Now for whatever your size is, it's going to give you a number of stitches to cast on. And by that it means the backward loop cast on. Now if you have another cast on that you would prefer to use, then by all means use that one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and now I'm going to knit 3. 1, 2, 3, and take this off. Now it says my marker is going to be placed in the right middle of the underarm. Well, I just messed that up, didn't I? 1, 2, 3, 4. So my beginning of the round marker would be right there. So I'm just going to grab a spare light bulb stitch marker. And for right now, I'll put that right there. Okay. So now we're going to knit the next large amount of stitches that it has in the pattern for you to knit until we come to the next set of sleeve stitches. For me, that is a little over 100 stitches. So this is what it'll look like once your sleeve stitches are put on hold right here. Then it's going to have right above it where you've cast on those extra stitches. Okay, and now we're knitting across the front of your sweater to get to the other sleeve stitches. I hope I'm knitting in frame. But I'm going to go ahead and get to the next section of sleeve stitches that we're going to put on hold, and I will see you there shortly. All right, so we're here to the next set of stitch markers, and I'm just going to take this stitch marker out, and we're going to knit these 3 raglan stitches and take this stitch marker off. And so that I don't lose stitches, I'm going to put my little needle minder there and grab my barber cord again and put it on there real good and tight. And I'm going to drag my barber cord all the way through here to get those stitches onto my barber cord. And it's super, super easy.
If you've never used barber cord before, it's very easy to do this. You just have to make sure that you've cut a large enough length, and don't pull too hard or it'll come off and then you'll lose all your stitches and then subsequently die. Pretty sure that's how that goes. Okay. So there's my barber cord on my 74 stitches, which I am now going to tie off again. Okay. And I'm going to take this off. And then now I'm going to cast on my number of stitches for the underarm that the pattern has told me to do. Okay, and then now I'm going to knit those 3 raglan stitches. Pull that stitch real good, kind of shimmy it a little bit. And then take that stitch marker off. And here now we're just going to knit all the way around. We're just knitting all the way around to the beginning of the round marker now, which is on the under the arm of the right side of your garment. So I'm going to get to the beginning of the round marker and I'm going to change it out to a pretty one, and I will see you there shortly. Okay, so we're coming around to the part where we're going to knit into those stitches that we cast on under the arm, and we're going to put on our proper beginning of the round marker. So I have chosen the camera, the light kind of blew out while I was filming, but this is what the little stitch markers look like. The adorable little sloth. This is my beginning of the round marker. And this is my little Speedy progress keeper. And I just think they are really adorable and I wanted to share them both with you. I'm going to use both of these for the rest of this project as a way of, well, I mean, because I'm going to remember her every time I knit with the yarn because she's the one that gave it to me, but just as a little homage. So I hope you see this. So you're going to knit through to those stitches that you just cast on there, and they're a little bit soft, kind of tender, a little difficult to get into, and they're very loose. And just do your best to get in there with them. Give them some time, and as you keep going around, they'll have some more substance to them. So I'm going to take this off. Accidentally got some yarn with it. Take that off and put on Speedy, and then finish knitting these little stitches here. Right underneath the arm. There we go. Right, and so now would also be a really good time to put in a progress keeper so that you can keep track of your progress. So, and it's under the back right. Back right. So this is the front. So I'm gonna put my little Speedy here in the front of my sweater, so I can see him every time and I can see all the progress that I'm making. So now comes the part of the pattern where, depending on your size, is depending on how much longer you have to knit this body for. So she gives very specific measurements for each size. So for my size, I know how many inches that I need to knit, and I will measure by the back of the neck all the way down the back to get once I get to my measurement that is required. And then that's how I know that I will be finished with the body. And then when we get finished with the body, we've got some ribbing and some Italian bind off. And then we'll move on to the sleeves. So I will take you along with me. I lost the stitch. I will take you along with me in different spots while we're knitting this body. It'll be, I mean, it didn't take us that long to knit the top part. Yeah, it didn't take us this long. So it shouldn't take us so long to knit the body. I think I mean, it's not going to be over in a day, of course not. But I think we can get through this in, just a few more days, I think, if we work really hard. If you have a lot of time to knit, I think we can get through this pretty quickly. So I hope you will take some time to enjoy some knitting every single day. I hope you've enjoyed doing the top part of this body with me so far, and I hope you plan to stick around for the rest of it, including the bottom and the ribbing, the Italian bind off, and the sleeves. So I will check in with you as we get further and further into the body, and as I'm measuring to get to the length that I need to get to. And you keep an eye on your measurements too, okay? All right, Speedy and I will see you later on. So everyone is still sleeping, and I have woken up early, and I'm just listening to some podcasts. And I am working on the sweater. So here is where I finished yesterday, or I got from here to here yesterday. And since I've been working this morning, I've made about an inch of progress. I worked on it last night while I watched Sherlock with my daughter. And yeah, so I've just been working on it. It's just so cushy. It's turning out so nicely. And pretty soon, I think I'm gonna try it on. Not yet though, pretty soon I'm gonna try it on. And we will see how that goes, and I'll show you how that goes too. So I got a lot of work done on this yesterday. And I tried it on, which I showed a picture of. You can see by my stitch marker, this was the one that I put on at the beginning of yesterday, that I got quite a bit done. And that was because I sat on my butt all day. While I'm doing these tutorials, I'm very lucky that my family allows me to just, oh, hey, mom's busy doing a tutorial. Mom's working on this because she's got her tutorial that she's doing. So I'm really lucky that my family allows me to just sit around and do that while I'm doing tutorials. But we did go out yesterday and have some fun. We went to a local state park and we hiked, and that was a lot of fun.
even though the natural scaredy cat in me was very concerned about the number of copperheads that I was sure would be out and about. You know, by the grace of God, we didn't see one, so that was good. We had a great time. We came back home, and I was just too tired to knit anymore. But this morning I'm up. I've knit a little bit this morning, and I measured, and for my size, my measurement, I should knit to 19 1/4 inches before starting the 1x1 rib. I am at 18 inches, measuring from the lower neck down the back. I'm at 18 inches. And the lazy side of me says, that's good. Claire, that's good. Go ahead and start the ribbing. The lazy side of me says, that's all right. You're good. I'm trying to counteract that lazy side of me, and I'm not going to knit 19 1/4 inch because I have a short torso. So I am going to knit 19 inches. And so once I finish the 19 inches, and once you finish your required length that you should for your back, then we're going to start our 1x1 rib. And so I'm going to measure again really quickly here, and then see how much I have left to go. So I did go ahead and measure, and I am at 18 3/4 inch. So I'm going to do 2 more rounds, just 2 more rounds, and then I'm going to start 1x1 rib, and we can start that together. Do you see this big bag back here? This is all packing paper. It's packing paper from all the boxes that I've been unpacking, and I'm still nowhere near being done. But the first thing I had to make sure I unpacked was my bookshelves. That was the first thing I had to make sure I unpacked. But anyway, so I'm gonna do 2 more rows, and then we'll get started doing the 1x1 rib together. How about that? So I have gotten to my 19 inches, and the first thing we have to do is change our needle size. So we're going to change our needle size from the size 6s that we're using, and we're going to change them to size 4s. So this is all the work that I did yesterday from here to here, and then this was just from this morning. So now we're going to begin just our 1x1 rib. And during our 1x1 rib, we're going to be doing 3.5 inches of 1x1 rib. And right at the end there, before we do our Italian bind off, we're going to do 2 rows of double knitting, and then we'll do our Italian bind off. So let's go ahead and get started with our 1x1 rib on our size 4 needles. So don't forget to change your needles to size 4. So it's hard to believe that we're almost done with the body. I don't know, I guess it's hard for me to believe that we're almost done with the body. I've been working on this every minute, every stray chance I can get in the car. I worked on it a little bit while we were waiting before we got out at the trail to go to Raven Rock. I worked on it after we finished eating at the restaurant, after we finished the trail at Raven Rock. We were all famished, and I work on it while my daughter and I watch Sherlock. And so sometimes in the morning when I'm watching podcasts or something, I don't always watch podcasts in the morning, because right now I'm just not feeling podcasts so much. I have a couple that I watch, but that's about it. But mainly I like to watch things on, I know this is silly, and please don't laugh at me. Well, actually, you can totally laugh if you want to. But since we've moved to North Carolina, I've been watching videos on North Carolina and Appalachian cryptids. I know that is so silly, but I have been, and it's fun to me. When we went to Raven Rock the other day. They had a vinyl sticker for your water bottle that had a hiking Sasquatch. And so I had to get it for my water bottle. If I think about it, I'll insert a little picture of it, but it was so stinking cute. And so now here I am working on the ribbing. And so now we have 3.5 inches of ribbing to do. So I am going to keep working on this ribbing while I do other things today. And you're going to keep working on your ribbing, making sure that you're using size 4 needles. And we're going to get through the body of this sweater. We may not get through it today, but we're going to get through it, and then we will be on to the sleeves. And once we do the sleeves, we're home free. All right, so I will catch up with you later on. Hello, my friends. So this is yesterday's work. So here I put on my progress keeper from when I started yesterday. And so far I think I have about 1.5 inches of, is that 1.5 inches or is that about 2 inches of, where is my, I don't know where my thing is. Okay, I don't know. To me, maybe that looks about like 2 inches. So I think I'm gonna give it about another inch, call it good. And then we'll do the 2 rows of double knitting, and then we'll do the Italian bind off. So I wanted to check in and see how everyone was doing. I wasn't really feeling my best yesterday, brain-wise, so I kind of checked out and watched a lot of TV and knit, and yeah, sometimes I have days or I can feel as though I am starting to slip into a low period, and I hate those because for me, low periods last the longest, and I can get frighteningly low. So I'm going to try my very hardest to get the hem on this done and finished and filmed today, and then immediately get started on the sleeves, and hopefully I will be able to get this done before this low kind of swings in full stop. That would be really great. That would be really great. So I'm just gonna keep going here, and I hope you're gonna keep going, and I will see you again when it's time to do the double knitting before the Italian bind off. All right, we're here, and we have got our nice long ribbed section here for our body. And now we're going to start our 2 ribs of double knitting, or our 2 rows of double knitting, before we get to our Italian bind off. So the first thing we're going to do is our first row that we're going to do is very simple. We're going to, pardon, I've got black ink on my fingers. We're going to knit 1, pull our yarn to the front, slip 1 purlwise, and then come back and knit 1, pull yarn to the front and slip 1, and then bring it back. Knit, slip, knit, slip, knit, slip. So we're knitting 1, pulling our yarn to the front and slipping as if to purl, then bringing our yarn back to knit again. So slip 1, knit 1, slip one, knit one, slip one, knit one, and we're going to do this all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to do this all the way around until we get to the end, and then I'll see you back here for the second row that we're going to be doing. All right, so we've made it all the way around to our little marker here, and the next one is super easy. We're going to slip one with yarn in back purlwise, and then we just purl. So keep your yarn in back, slip one as if to purl, and then bring it forward, and we're just purling that purl stitch. So we're slipping one, purling one, slipping that knit stitch with the yarn in back, and we're purling that stitch that was already a purl stitch. So slipping one, purling one, slipping one with the yarn in back, and purling one. Slip and purl, slip and purl. Are you getting nervous about the Italian bind off? Don't be nervous. It'll be all right. We're gonna do it together. Slip and purl, slip and purl. All right, you go ahead and continue going all the way around with your slipping and purling, and then I will too, and I will see you back at our stitch marker where we're gonna go ahead and start our Italian bind off, and then we will be done with the body of our Monday sweater. All right, here we are, friends. So I've just put a little stitch stopper here on my right hand needle to keep any stitches from falling off, and we're going to be working here on our left hand needle. So you'll need to pull out about 3 to 4 lengths of yarn that are the circumference of what you're going to be stitching up. So I just pulled out a whole bunch, and if it's not enough, I will figure that part out later on, won't I? But I pulled out a whole bunch, and now we're ready to get started. So there are 2 things that we have to do before we get going. And so the first thing we're going to do is our 2 setup stitches. So the first thing is to purl onto the first knit stitch and leave it onto the needle. So we're going to take our trusty, rusty needle here, and we're going to purl into this first stitch, and we're going to leave it on the needle. And then from the back, in between the first and second stitch, you're going to insert your needle knitwise into the purl stitch. So here is your first stitch and your back stitch. So we are going to insert into the back between the first and second stitch, and then I'm going to insert my needle knitwise into the purl stitch. Just like that. And I'm going to leave that on the needle as well. And I'm just going to pull all that yarn. So now we have set up, gosh, that's a lot of yarn. So now we have set up our stitches. So now we're going to work in repeats, 4 repeated stitches. So we're working in pairs. So we're going to work the knit stitches. So we're on ribbing here. See, we have knit stitches and we have the purl stitches. We're going to be working our knit stitches first and then our purl stitches. So, but we're working in pairs. Okay, so if we're working on a knit stitch, then we're going to be working on the second knit stitch. If we're working on a purl stitch, then we're going to be working on the second purl stitch. All right, so here's our 4 repeated stitches worked in pairs. We're working into the knits first and then the purls. So the first knit stitch right here, this is our first stitch in general. First knit stitch, second knit stitch, first purl stitch, second purl stitch. So number 1, insert knitwise into our first knit stitch, and we're going to pull this stitch off. Okay? Now we're going to insert purlwise into the second knit stitch. So this is our second knit stitch. Purlwise into the second knit stitch, and we're going to leave that on. And then you can pull your yarn. You don't have to pull your yarn every time because it's going to get really tedious very, very quickly. Okay, now we're going to insert, now we're working on our purl stitches. So we're going to insert purlwise into the first purl stitch, which would be right here. Insert purlwise into the first purl stitch and pull that off. And then we're going to insert knitwise into the second purl stitch. Okay, from in between these 2 stitches. Let me pull this out of the way. So we've just goodness gracious. So we just pulled a purl stitch off and pulled through. And now we have this knit stitch left here and a purl stitch left here. So we're going to insert knitwise into the second purl stitch from in between the 2 stitches. So we're going to come before here, come back here in between those 2 stitches. Okay, and then you're going to come behind and insert knitwise into that purl stitch. You sort of maneuver your way in there. Yeah. And there we go. And we're going to leave that on. So insert knitwise, drop. You do not have to pull your yarn every time. And into the second knit stitch, purlwise, we leave on. Now, into the purl stitch, we insert purlwise and we drop it. And then we come around and we say, "Excuse me, please," to these 2 stitches, the knit stitch and the purl stitch. And we're going to come through the back of these 2 stitches and insert knitwise into that purl stitch and leave it on. Now we're going to pull our 75 meters of thread through here. There we go. Let me get more of this even so that, my gosh, that's a lot. Okay, so let's do this again.
So here we have our knit stitch and our purl stitch and our knit stitch and our purl stitch. These are the 4 stitches that we are working with. Just these. Only worry about these. And we're only ever working with either both of the knits or both of the purls at one time. So we're going to be very polite in our work here. This dead guy back here, he can come back here. We're going to be very polite and we're going to hold our yarn back here. So we're going to insert into our knit stitch knitwise and pull it off. Okay? And then we're going to work onto our second knit stitch and we're going to insert purlwise and we're going to leave that on. And then we can go ahead and pull our yarn if you want to. Now we're working with our purl stitches. So now we're going to come over here to our purl stitch and we're going to insert purlwise and pull it off. Oh, but since we've pulled it off, now we're going to come around the back door here and insert, excuse me please, in between the knit stitch and the purl stitch. And then we're going to maneuver that needle to knit behind that purl stitch. And we're leaving that on. And we're doing a bad job of pulling our yarn. Well, maybe you're not. I am. This pulling the whole yarn thing is going to be the death of me. Okay, let's do this again. See how we're making a little bit right there? Let's do this again. So we're only working with these 4 stitches. Our knit stitch, purl stitch, purl stitch. And it's kind of hard because you can't really see your purl stitches, but that's okay. We know they're there. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go knitwise into that knit stitch and pull it off. And then we're going to, because we're only working into knit stitches and knit stitches, now into our second knit stitch, we're going to go in purlwise and we're going to leave it on. Okay? Now, we're going to pull our yarn through. Now we're going to be working with our purl stitches. This guy is really getting to me. Now we're working with our purl stitches. So that would be this purl stitch and this purl stitch. So now purlwise, we're going to insert into our purl stitch and drop it off. And then we're going to swing into the back, right back here in between our purl stitch and our knit stitch. And we're going to say, excuse me, and we are going to knit into the back of that purl stitch and leave that on and pull our yarn. There we go. So let's keep going. We're going to have to do this a few times. I know. So again, and I'm going to say this every time, so don't worry. We are only ever working with 4 stitches at one time. And we're working with our knits. So if we're going to work with this knit, then we're immediately going to work with this knit. And if we're going to work with this purl, then we're immediately going to work with this purl. We're not working with any of these side by side. We're working knits with knits, purls with purls. So we're going to take our needle here and we're going to go into knitwise into our knit stitch and drop it off. Then we're going to make purlwise into our next knit stitch and leave it on. And we can pull that yarn. Okay. And then now we're going to work into our purl stitches. So we're going to purl into this stitch and drop it off.
But now we're going to come in between that knit stitch and that purl stitch. Come from the back, in between these two stitches, and say, excuse me, as we knit into the back of that purl stitch. And we leave it on. And we pull our yarn because we are nice and tidy. We are tidy. You see how cute that is? How tidy? Let's keep going. So, our 4 stitches here. Knitwise, drop it. Our second knit stitch right here, purlwise, leave it on. And you can pull your yarn if you want to. And now, so we still have 3 stitches we're working with. This is a purl, this is a knit, this is a purl. Now, purlwise, I'm coming into this purl and I'm going to drop it. Now I'm coming around town like a backdoor lover in between the knit stitch and the purl stitch, and I'm going to kind of maneuver my way to knit into the back of that purl stitch. You see what I did right there? I'm your backdoor lover. Anybody know that from Josie and the Pussycats? Lying in my bed looking up at the moon. Don't leave me alone here, y'all. Okay, so here we are, our 4 stitches. So we're gonna knit 1 and drop it. Now we're coming back to our second knit stitch and we're gonna purlwise and leave it on. And you can go ahead and pull your yarn so it stays nice and, look, Fred, don't stop trying to be involved. Sheesh. Okay, and now we're going to insert purlwise into this purl stitch and leave it off. And as we're taking it off, we're coming around the back to the back door lover in between those 2 stitches, and we say, excuse me, as we knit into that purl stitch, and we leave it on. I'm your back door lover. So we're kind of doing like a sneaky little freaky move, if you will. Look, whatever it takes to help you remember this. So here we go. Our 4 stitches that we're working, 2 knits and 2 purls. Coming into the first one knitwise, and we drop it. Now we're coming into the second knit stitch, and we're going to leave it on, and we're going to pull our yarn and make sure Frank stays out of the way because he does not need to be involved. Okay, so now here's our purl stitch. We're going to purl off, but then we're going to swing around to the back in between the knit stitch and the purl stitch and say, excuse me please, and we're going to knit into the back of that purl stitch. So we're doing some little shady backdoor maneuvers to get this really nice, beautiful, rounded bit there. Is this really necessary? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary at all, because if anyone comes up close enough to me to look at my hem of my shirt and wants to touch it, I'm probably going to smack their hand and say back off. But we're following the pattern here. Follow the pattern. And this takes forever. It's gonna take forever. Just understand that. So here we are, our 4 stitches again. Knitwise, drop it off. Second knit stitch, we're gonna purl and leave it on, and we're gonna pull our yarn through. Now, we have 3 stitches left. So we're going to purl into our purl stitch, take it off, then slip around in between the knit and the purl stitch, and we're going to do our shady maneuver where we're going to knit into the back of that purl stitch. And then we pull our yarn through again. And that just gives that nice clean finish. Here we go again. Knitwise, drop it off, work into our next knit stitch, purlwise, leave it on, and pull. Okay, then we have our next purl stitch, purlwise, take it off, and as we're taking it off, we're coming around to the back door in between the knit stitch and the purl stitch, and then we're going to do a shady maneuver where we go and we actually knit into the back of that purl stitch. Of course, we said excuse me before we did it because we are polite knitters. We would never knit into the back of someone's purl stitch without asking for forgiveness or permission. Knitwise, drop it off. Purlwise, leave it on. Pull your yarn. Purlwise, drop it off around the back door lover, knitting into that purl stitch. Bam. There we go. Knitwise, drop it off. That second knit stitch we're working in. Purlwise, we leave it on and go ahead and pull your yarn. Now we're working purlwise, take it off, and in between that knit stitch and the purl stitch, we say, excuse me, and we're going to knit into the back of that purl stitch and leave it on. Okay, I think I'm going to do this probably 2 more times, and then hopefully you'll have gotten the hang of it. Just remember, knitwise drop, purlwise on, purlwise drop. Excuse me, Mr. Backdoor Lover. Knitwise on. Okay. Knitwise drop, second purl stitch, purlwise on, pull your yarn through. All right, Frank, I've had about enough. Now, last 3 stitches, purlwise off and bring it around back in between those 2 stitches. And we're going to say, excuse me, as we knit into the back of that purl stitch and pull our yarn because we've left it on. Okay, let's do one more time. Knitwise, drop it, purlwise on, now purlwise, drop it, come in through the back door, excuse me, and knit into that purl stitch, and there you go. And we made sure to say excuse me. All right, I'm gonna keep going because this is gonna take literally forever. So I'm gonna keep going and you keep going. And if you need to kind of rewind a little bit so that you can see me do this, feel free to do that. Also, if this was a little bit too out there for you, there are tons tons of Italian bind off tutorials on YouTube that you can look up instead, okay? So I will see you when we are all done binding off our sweater. All right, if you've gotten this far, it means that you have finished the waistband of your sweater. You finished that Italian bind off, and it means that you're ready to start your sleeve. I've already done one sleeve, and I'm gonna show you how I did it. Now there are, sorry, that's in my face. There are 150,000 different tutorials that you can follow on YouTube to help you pick up underarm stitches with no gap. And they can show you a heck of a lot better than I can. I'm just going to show you what I do. And if at the very end, if I have any issues, if I see a gap or something, then I just weave in, I just do a little bit of weave in magic. But I don't have gap issues in my sweaters. This is just what I do. You are welcome to use your own. If you already have a method that you use to pick up sweater stitches under or sleeve stitches with no gap, then by all means use that. But I can link some really great tutorials below for you. So if you would like to follow a tutorial rather than just doing what I'm doing, then that's great too. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna change position real quick and we will get started. And again, this is just what I do. I am not a professional master knitter, but this is just what I do, okay? Okay, so this will all vary based on the size of sweater that you're knitting. It all determines how many stitches you're gonna pick up and how many extra stitches you're gonna pick up. So I'm picking up 8 stitches here in the center, and on the sides, on each side, I'm going to pick up 2 extra stitches, and I'm going to pick up those stitches in the fabric. So I'm not going to try, and so you could do these really great tutorials that have you like use these pulled stitches and twist and configure them in certain ways, and those are absolutely wonderful tutorials. I can't wrap my brain around them, even though I've watched them 100 times. So I'm going to show you what I do. So first, I'm about to pick up my first stitch. And so I've got my tail here and my working yarn off to the side. And I'm going to pick up into the fabric. If I try to pick up too close to the edge, it's going to create a hole. I'm going to come down into the raglan, about 2 stitches into the raglan, and pick up a stitch. Okay, just like that. And now I'm going to come about 2 stitches down here, and I'm going to pick up my second stitch. And so now when I come back around, this is my end here. When I come back around, I'm going to decrease here and here to decrease those 2 stitches. Remember, this looks like a little loose right now, but it's because this is the working yarn. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go into the V's down, and I'm going to pick up my recommended or my stitches that I picked up, that I cast on. So I have 1, looking for the V's, 2, another V, 3, looking for the V's, 4, I'm just going to pull that stitch up there again, and then here's another V, 5, another V,
6, another V, 7, and another V, 8. These have already been stretched out a little bit because I've done this once before, just to make sure that what I was doing would be recognizable. And now I'm going to come into the raglan and pick up 2 extra stitches over here. So I'm coming down into the fabric of the raglan. There, and I'm just gonna choose a spot right here. There. And when I come back around, when I knit back around, I will see the differences, or the gap between these 2 stitches and these 2 stitches, and I'll know that I need to decrease 2 stitches on both sides. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and knit all the way around until I get back here to this side, and I will show you how I'm going to decrease on that side to eliminate any holes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and knit around. Okay, so these stitches are not positioned on my needle the way I would like them to be, which I'll do after I close the gaps here. But I just wanted to show you. So here in the center is where I have my little progress keeper here. That's going to be my beginning end of round. I don't use a marker when I'm doing sleeves. I usually just use a progress keeper, and I consider my beginning end of round, whatever, in the center of that sleeve. So I picked up I cast on 8 stitches for the underarm of my sleeve, and when I picked up 2 extra stitches. So in between these 2 light bulb stitch markers, I have 10 stitches. So, and on either side of these stitch markers, there's a gap, and I'm going to attempt to close that gap. So, like I said, these are not positioned on the needle properly, but they're here just so I can show you. So here's the first gap. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this guy off, and I am going to knit these 2 together, and I'm gonna pull on that yarn that we used when we picked up stitches. See how it's pulled those together, and then so I've knit those 2 together, and then I'm going to knit the next 2 stitches together too. And it's a little bit tight, but that's okay. So then I'm going to pull there, and now I'm going to knit across, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So here is going to be the center of my sleeve. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull that through right now. And I will recount and reposition stitches after I'm done with this. So we have our center here, and now we are coming up to 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we are coming up onto our gap. So I'm going to do the same thing that I just did before, is I'm going to knit these 2 together from the back on this side, take that off, and then knit these 2 together the same way. And then just gonna keep going on knitting. As you can see, I don't know if you can see right there, but as you can see, there's no gap.
I wasn't precious about which way to position my knit two togethers. I just, however it felt right to do it. I am a fly by the seat of my pants knitter, and that is just the way I have always been. So I'm going to go ahead and knit all the way around and reposition my stitches on the needle so that you can see the underarms and what we have created, or what I have created. I will be right back. Okay, so here is the end of my round, I guess, on this side of my needle. My little marker is on the other side right here. And I wanted to show you that there is virtually, I think I may have pulled this guy a little bit too tight a bit, maybe not enough, I'm not sure. There's virtually no gap here. Does it look absolutely perfect? Ooh, probably not. I think it looks great. Don't forget, if you do have a little gap or whatever, pull your buddy down here. He's located down here, okay? And your other stitches up here are all gonna be based on your tension going around. And remember that tension is everything. So this is just what I did. Let me show you the other side. So this is my other side. I haven't knit into it yet because that's gonna be my first actual round that I'm going to be counting. But as you can see that there are some twisted stitches, some stitches that have been moved around and whatnot, but there's no gap. There's no gap. Now, is this how a professional would have you do it? Probably not, but I'm not a professional. And if you're watching this tutorial, I'm willing to bet, where's my yarn go? I'm willing to bet that you're not either. However, like I said before, I will link some really great gap-free underarm tutorials for you down below. So please go watch out for them. They are amazing and they can really elevate your stitching to a much higher level. I've used them before and they're absolutely fine. They're wonderful, but there's only so much hard drive space in my brain. And I've got the Kitchener in there and now the Italian bind off, and something else had to go. But anyway, so that's how my bit is looking at the moment. So now what we're going to do is we're going to be decreasing as we are knitting our sleeves. So depending on what size you are knitting is going to tell you how many rows that you knit and then you decrease. So for my size, I'm going to be knitting 7 rows. On the 7th row, on row number 7, I decrease, and that is going to be a decrease on one side and on the other side. So we're going to be decreasing twice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to knit my first 6 rows. This is really close. I'm going to go ahead and knit my first 6 rows, and I will see you back here when we decrease the first time. All right, based on the size that you are knitting, it tells you how many rounds to do before you decrease. So based on my size that I'm knitting, I had to knit 6 rounds and then decrease on my 7th round. So this right now is my 7th round, and this is how we're going to decrease. So here is the back of my sleeve, the front of my sleeve, and here's what we're going to do. To decrease for your sleeves, you're going to knit 1, knit 2 together, knit all the way around. You're going to knit all the way down this sleeve and all the way down the other side of the sleeve. And I will meet you there in just a moment. So you're going to knit all the way down the other side of your sleeve to the last 3 stitches. And when we get there, we are going to do a slip, slip, knit. Slip, slip, knit those both together, and knit your last stitch. So what I recommend doing is what I did with my first sleeve, is on every stitch where when I started my decreases, so your first stitch is your regular stitch and your second stitch is where you start your decreases. I put a light bulb stitch marker on all of my decreases, as you can see, and I followed them all the way down my sleeve. So how many rows of decreasing you are going to have is specifically based on the size that you're knitting, and your pattern is going to tell you exactly how many rows to decrease or how many rows to knit in between your decreases. All of that is in your pattern. It's also going to tell you how long to knit your cuff. So for my size, it told me to knit my cuff for 4.5 inches. However, after I finished my decreases, and then I did another inch of stockinette, and then I tried on my sweater, and at 3 inches is where I stopped my cuff because I have short arms, and I really liked where it hit on my arms at 3 inches, and I know that once I block this is going to grow a little bit, so it'll probably come down to about mid-palm or so, and so that's really good for me. So definitely make sure you're trying this on as you're working it. But so like you just saw me do, that is as simple as it is for your sleeve stitches. It tells you, the pattern tells you everything. It tells you how many rows, and how to decrease. So what I've been doing, as you can see right here, is very sloppily keeping track of what row, and I always decrease on my 7th row. So I just decreased, so I'll put number 7 there. And then I'll start over again. Row 1, once I knit row 1, I write 1, just like that. And for my size, I do 11 decreases. Your sizing is going to vary, so the amount of decreases that you do will vary as well. So once we finish our decreases, then we'll come to the cuff. So I'm gonna do some more knitting on my sleeve, see how far I can get, and then I'll come back in and check in with you, and then see how you're doing. And then we'll move on to the little bit of stockinette after we finish our decreases, and then we'll do our cuff together. So see you soon. Hello my friends. So we are now done with the main part of the second sleeve, or your first sleeve. So for your sleeve, the pattern told you how many times to decrease and how many rows in between each decrease. So for me, that was to decrease 11 times, and I was to decrease on my 7th row each time. So I've done that. And once I finished the decreases, I also did an inch of plain stockinette. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to change my needles to the lower size, and I'm going to work on the cuff. So in the pattern, she calls to change your needles to a size 4. Well, I decided to change my needles to a 3 last time because I wanted a little bit of a tighter cuff. So I'm going to change my needles to a size 3. And the pattern also says to knit 4.5 inches for your cuff. Well, 4.5 inches is a bit too long for my short little wee arms. So my cuff is 3 inches, and that works perfectly for me. So I am going to switch out my needles here. By the way, if you've ever wondered about getting Lantern Moon interchangeable needles, save your money and get Xiaogu. These have the worst join right here, and it just bothers me every time I use them. Every time I go around, and it's for all of the needles. But I paid a lot of money for these, so I'm gonna use them. But I should have put the money towards Xiaogus. Anyway, just a little side note there. So now for the cuff, we're literally just doing 1 by 1 rib all the way around. No more decreasing. The amount of stitches that we're left with for the cuff is the amount of stitches that we're going to be using the entire time that we're decreasing. At the end of the cuff, we're going to be doing another Italian bind off. Now, at the end of the cuff, she tells you to do 2 rows of double knitting and then do the Italian bind off. Well, I didn't do that on my cuff. I just finished the 3 inches of knitting, and then I did the Italian bind off, and I don't see any difference. So when we get to the part where she asks for the double knitting, I'll explain how to do it and do it for you a little bit. But then I'll be removing it and just doing a regular Italian bind off for my own cuff. And that is solely personal preference. So I'm going to keep going and doing 3 inches of 1 by 1 rib here for my cuff. And I will see you back here when it's time for us to do the Italian bind off again. And I'm sure you'll remember it from last time, and if not, then I will give you a quick reminder. All right, see you then. So I'm about 2 inches into my cuff right now. And I just want to tell you all, thank you so much for coming on this sweater knitting journey with me. My biggest regret in this whole video is the underarms of the sleeves. I'm so sorry. I really should have done a much better job. And I do promise you that if I do another sweater tutorial, I will make sure that I have properly practiced one of the other many really great techniques
to make sure there's no underarm holes, and I'll make sure to do it right and not so much just sort of fly by the seat of my pants, because you're not watching this video to watch me make silly mistakes. You're watching these videos so that you can get a sense and an idea of how to knit, these items that you want to have for the rest of your life, foreseeably. And so it's not always about how I would make something or how I would do something. Sometimes it's about following the pattern and doing your best job to make it as clean and professional as possible. So in the future, I will definitely try to make my videos more professional. I'm hoping to be able to get a laptop soon so I can start filming on the laptop, or not filming, but so I can start editing on the laptop. And so I'll be able to put in timestamps and just better quality of editing all over. So I've got about an inch left on this ribbing that I'm going to do. Then we're going to bind off together, and then it will be time for blocking.
All right, so I'm done with the cuff, and I've knit my cuff to 3 inches because that's my personal preference, which equaled to about 20 rounds. Now, at this part of the pattern, she tells you to do 2 rounds of double knitting before we do the Italian bind off. Now, I'm not doing the 2 rounds of double knitting, but I am going to refresh you on what they are. So I'll do a little bit of the first round of double knitting, and then I'll show you a little bit of the second round of double knitting. And then I'm going to take those off my needles, and then we'll do the Italian bind off together. So for your first row of double knitting, we're going to knit 1, slip 1 purlwise with yarn in front, and then pull that back and knit 1. Slip 1 purlwise with yarn in front, pull it back, and knit. Slip 1 purlwise with yarn in front, pull it back, and knit. Slip 1 purlwise, knit, purlwise, knit, purlwise, knit, purlwise, knit. And you go ahead and you do that all the way around your cuff for your first row. Now your second row is going to look like this. Slip 1 purlwise with yarn in back, purl 1. Slip 1 purlwise, yarn in back, bring it forward to purl 1. Then come back. Slip 1, purl 1. Slip 1, purl 1. Slip 1, purl 1. Slip 1 with yarn in back, purl 1. Slip 1 with yarn in back, purl 1. And you will do that all the way around your second row, and then you'll be ready for the Italian bind off. So I'm going to go ahead and take those stitches off of my needle. Again, this is just personal preference for me, and then we'll start our Italian bind off. All right, here we are, ready to go. Oh my gosh. All right, here we go. So first one, we're going to set up our stitches, our 2 stitches. Before we do anything else, we have to set them up. So first we're going to purl on the first stitch and leave it on. And then from the back between the first and second stitch, we're going to come behind. So I'm coming behind here in between the first and second stitch, and then I'm going to maneuver and knit into that second stitch, and I leave that on. So those were our 2 setup rounds, and now we're ready to do the rest. So we've set up our first 2 stitches, and now remember, we're only ever working with the knit stitches at the same time and the purl stitches at the same time. So remember that when we work with a purl stitch, we're immediately going to work, a knit stitch, we're immediately going to be working with the second knit stitch. When we work with a purl stitch, immediately after we'll be working with the other purl stitch. And that's how it's going to be the whole way around. So now we're ready to go. So knitwise drop with that first knit stitch, and then for our second knit stitch here, purlwise on, no, purlwise drop, and then we're going to come around here to the back in between these two stitches and poke right between and say, excuse me, and we're actually going to knit into the back of that purl stitch and leave that on. There we go. So let's do that again. Knitwise drop, second knit stitch, purlwise on, purlwise drop, but come around to the back between those two stitches and excuse me, and purl into the back of that, or knit into the back of that purl stitch and leave that on and pull your yarn. Let's do that again. Knit off, purl on, purl off, and coming around back, excuse me please, knitting into the back of that stitch, and we leave it on. Let's see if I can do that slower. Knitwise on, purlwise, or knitwise off, purlwise on. Let's see if I can separate those a bit. Okay, purlwise off, and come around to the back. See right here in the back, and we're going to go right in between those two stitches and come out the front, and then we're going to maneuver our needle to knit into the back of that purl stitch, and then pull our yarn through. It's like a little maneuver there, like a little military maneuver. Knitwise off, purlwise on, purlwise off, come around to the back, and excuse me while we knit into that purl stitch. So I will do this one more time, and then I think you will have got it, and then we will both continue on our Italian bind off for our sleeves. Knit one off, purlwise on, purlwise off, and around in the back, excuse me, and knit into the back of that purl stitch. And there you go. So we're just going to keep going right around this cuff until there's 2 stitches left, and then we're all done, because you just knit into one or purl into one, however, wherever the number of stitches you are, whatever your 2 next stitches would be, that's what you would do. And then we weave that in, and it's done. The cuff is done. And if you need to do your next sleeve, then you do your next sleeve. And then for me right now, after this, I am done. So I am going to give this a nice block. And here shortly, you will see my finished sweater. I've got 2 done cuffs here. And so now I'm going to give this a good block. this is it, the finished project. There's a little crease right here because I've actually been wearing this for the past like 2 hours while I was watching a movie. But it turned out absolutely perfectly. No armholes, the perfect sleeve measurements, the perfect raglan measurements, the perfect neckline, the perfect length. This is probably the best sweater I have ever knit in my 19 years of knitting. I don't know why I didn't knit this sooner. And the only reason I knit this is because you guys asked for it. So thank you so much. Thank you for asking. And thank you so much because now I have this amazing sweater that I stinking love. And I'm going to be wearing this for years and years. And the fabric is amazing. It's a merino alpaca blend, and it just feels so good. It's after I blocked it, it's just soft and there's no itch factor, and this was a great pattern. This is a perfect pattern for beginners who are eager to learn a little more. This is a perfect pattern for seasoned knitters. This is just a fantastic pattern, and it now makes me want to knit more petite knit sweater patterns. So I get it. So all of you petite knitters out there to all of you fans of petite knit out there who've knit all of their patterns, like, I get it now. I totally get it now. Let me know which sweater you want to see next. Thank you guys so much for watching. If this is your first tutorial you've seen by me and you got any value from it, please hit that like button, and I'd appreciate it if you subscribe. And if you have more ideas for tutorials in the future, let me know down below. Thank you.